I never believed in ghosts, not until that night. It was a thought I had held firmly for as long as I could remember, a conviction forged in rationality and the mundane realities of life. I had always dismissed the stories, the whispered tales of shadowy figures and spectral presences, as mere figments of imagination, or the embellishments of those who sought to entertain or frighten. But then I moved into that old house at the edge of Blackwood Forest, and everything changed. The house was a relic of another time, its wooden bones creaking under the weight of years and memories. I found it on a rental website, the price so low it felt like a gift. I didn't question it. I needed a place to stay, and this seemed as good as any. The air was thick with a fog that clung to the ground like a shroud, wrapping the house in an eerie embrace. I shrugged off the discomfort it stirred within me, convincing myself that it was simply an old building with its own character. The first few nights passed uneventfully, filled with the usual sounds of an aging structure settling into itself, the groans of wood, the rattling of windows, the whispers of the wind. But on the fourth night, something shifted. I was jolted awake by a whisper, a sound so soft and delicate that I initially dismissed it as the wind. But then I heard it again, clearer this time, a voice that seemed to beckon from just outside my bedroom door. "Come outside." A chill swept through me, tightening my stomach into a knot. I lay frozen beneath my blanket, my heart pounding in my chest. The whisper faded into silence, and after what felt like an eternity, I convinced myself it was a figment of my imagination. But the next night it returned, insistent and haunting. "Come outside." This time it was closer, pressing against the door like a breath on my skin. I reached for my phone, my fingers trembling as I checked the time. 3:12 a.m. I turned on my bedside lamp, but the whispering ceased. I spent the rest of the night wide awake, staring at the shadows that danced along the walls. Morning brought little comfort. I scoured the house, checking every room, every corner. The doors were locked, the windows sealed tight. But then I noticed something that sent a wave of dread coursing through me. Bare, wet footprints on the wooden floor, leading from the front door to my bedroom. I felt the ground shift beneath me, the walls closing in. Sleep eluded me completely that night. Desperate for reassurance, I called my friend Mark, sharing the bizarre occurrences. He laughed, brushing it off as my mind playing tricks. "All right," he said, a grin plastered on his face. "Let's stay up and prove there's nothing here." I welcomed the company, hoping that his presence would dispel the growing shadows of my fears. Midnight passed without incident, then 1 a.m., and still nothing happened. But at exactly 3:12 a.m., the whisper returned, cutting through the silence like a knife. "Come outside." Mark's laughter faded, replaced by a pallor that washed over his face. I grabbed his arm, panic surging through me. "Did you hear that?" My voice trembled, the words barely escaping my lips. "Come outside." The voice had shifted, no longer a whisper but a chilling command, resonating just outside the door. My heart raced as I reached for the lamp, my fingers shaking uncontrollably. I switched it on, and the whispering ceased, leaving us in a suffocating silence. We sat there, eyes glued to the door, the atmosphere thick with dread. Then, without warning, a scratching sound broke the stillness. Slow, deliberate scratches that seemed to claw at the wood. Mark's face drained of color as he grabbed his phone, illuminating the darkness with a beam of light. He stood, took a deep breath, and reached for the doorknob. I wanted to scream for him to stop, but fear paralyzed me. He opened the door. Nothing. Just the dark hallway stretching before us, an abyss of uncertainty. We stepped out, hearts pounding, scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. The house was silent, but then we saw it. At the end of the hallway stood a figure, impossibly tall, its head brushing the ceiling. Its skin was a sickly gray, stretched tight over its skeletal frame. Its mouth was grotesquely wide, unhinged as if it were a creature of nightmares. But it was its eyes that froze me in place. Dark voids, gaping and empty, devoid of any humanity. It didn't move. It just stood there, an embodiment of dread. Then, in a voice that seemed to reverberate through the very walls, it spoke. "You open the door." The lights flickered violently, and the house trembled as if it were alive, the walls cracking under the weight of something ancient and malevolent. The whispering escalated into a cacophony of shrieks, a chorus of tortured souls screaming in unison. We ran. We didn't look back, sprinting through the fog that now felt like a living entity wrapping around us as we reached my car. My hands shook so violently that I fumbled with the keys, struggling to unlock the door. Finally, we jumped inside, slamming the doors as if that could shield us from what we had encountered. The house loomed in the rearview mirror, its windows now blackened, a void that seemed to swallow the light. And then, as if a switch had been flipped, everything ceased. The shaking, the scream, the whispers. Silence enveloped us like a blanket. Mark and I sat there, gasping for breath, our minds racing to comprehend the horror we had witnessed. The fog began to lift, revealing the first light of dawn breaking on the horizon. Without exchanging a word, we drove away, leaving the house, and whatever had dwelled within it, behind. I never returned to that house. The memories lingered, a haunting reminder of the night I was forced to confront the unknown. I had entered that place a skeptic, but I emerged with a truth I could never unsee. Ghosts are real, and sometimes they linger just beyond the door, waiting for someone to open it.